Last of the Dragonlords by Flashlight 20, Chapter 10. The frozen steppes was just miles and miles of featureless land. Segments of grass and rock were scattered here and there, giving shelter for smaller creatures from the elements. The steppes were split into two halves, one end heading south towards the borders, while the other headed north towards the small pony kingdoms and the ocean. While the southern section was featureless, the northern side, however, was covered in swamplands. Dead trees and bushes littered the landscape, and the swamps were filled with dark, sticky water. And this was where Firewing was leading Fluttershy. "Do we have to go in there?" she asked him, voice giving away her fear. Firewing looked up and nodded, brushing his long mane out of his right eye. "Afraid so. Just stay close behind me and follow my steps, okay?" Fluttershy nodded and moved so she was merely 2 steps away from him. Firewing led the way through a small muddy path that seemed to narrow as they walked. It seemed to Fluttershy anyway. For Firewing, however, he walked as he was strolling down an empty street. "There's nothing to be scared of, Fluttershy," Firewing said as he walked. "Nothing lives here. Not anymore." Fluttershy relaxed a little and continued on the thin path. "Then what used to live here?"
"Most of the creatures from the mini ice age, roughly 10 to 20,000 years ago,"
Firewing answered.
"When it finished, many of those creatures died out, and this place remained the same ever since. That's why it's called the Frozen Steppes. It's also the perfect hiding place for those who don't want to be found. A pony or horse can get lost here very easy. If they want to, that is.
"But we won't, right?"
Of course not. All you do is just follow the mountains to the east or west of us, and basically back to closest civilization,"
he said, then adding,
"Oh, might just stop here."
Fluttershy stopped to look down. The water, if she could call it that, spread over the path in front of her was a thick, dark black that bubbled every now and then. With a little help from her wings, she hopped over and was soon behind Firewing again. After a few minutes of walking through pits and nearly falling into the sticky marshes, the two finally arrived at what seemed to be a large brickled mound. A circular structure and rose a few feet from the ground, dark green moss hanging from the cracks, while around it 4 grotesque statues stood in each corner of the area around it, sitting in a relaxed pose. Firewing climbed up the mound and was at the top soon enough. He turned around and held out a hoof.
"You're coming up, Fluttershy."
He called to the Pegasus, was looking at the structure with a mix of curiosity and fear. "Is it safe?" she asked shakily.
Firewing rolled his eyes. "I promise you it is safe. I also promise that this is where your answers lie."
Fluttershy's ears perked up. Her answers to the questions she wanted to know. The whole reason she was here. What was up there? She broke into a canter and raced up the slope, soon appearing next to Firewing. She took a good look at her surroundings. Around the small stretch of land that made up the mound, the area was filled with bogs and marshes. To the east of the highland range, the mountains looking vast and tall in size, while behind them, to the west, was the ragged mountainous range, the place she and Firewing had walked, flown, or galloped for the previous evening. It took it the rest of that evening and most of the morning to arrive at where they were now, mostly due to Fluttershy and her wings tiring her quickly. So Firewing was forced to go at her walking pace for some of the journey, until her wings recovered and was able to fly at a galloping pace again. It never frustrated Firewing, remained calm to consider it every time Fluttershy was unable to go on flying, forced the two to go at a slower pace.
"Don't worry, Fluttershy,"
He said once, and hearing numerous apologies from the Pegasus.
"I was never a good flyer myself. My wings tired out way quicker than most Pegasi, and it isn't your fault, all the same. Remember that."
Fluttershy was confused but didn't say anything. As he walked through the marsh, he kept looking back at what Firewing said, and what he could have meant. "Earlier, when you said it wasn't my fault I couldn't fly well, what did you mean?" She asked after a moment of silence at the top of the mound. "That was because I wasn't able to fly well. It was because of my shyness." Firewing shook his head and smiled at her.
"I noticed in the fortress that you had some underdeveloped feathers in your wings, probably from birth. They don't look exactly to stop you from flying. They'll hinder it and tire you out a bit quicker. Did your mother suffer from the same, or your father even?"
Fluttershy's ears went down as she looked away. "I never even knew my mother or father." Firewing's eyes widened.
"Could it be the same pony?" he
thought. Fluttershy noticed him staring at her for a little longer, and she went and hid her face behind her mane. What is it? Is there something behind me? She asked. Hey, dude, stay away from Fluttershy. I swear, these OCs, it's like, no matter what they do, they all want a little piece of that Fluttershy booty. She swears you are being a jerk. Why can't he enjoy her company? I don't know, there's just something new about this whole thing. Finally, he shook his head and faced towards the center of the structure.
Nothing. You just remind me of somebody I knew. Somebody I lost long ago.
Fluttershy's ears flattened and walked up to him, placing a hoof on his shoulder. I'm sorry to hear that. He looked behind at the Pegasus next to her and smiled.
It's okay, Fluttershy.
He said, then turned back towards the center, rubbing his toes together in anticipation.
Now then, let's get this open, shall we?
Fluttershy looked to the center of the roof, and back of Firewing in confusion. But how? Does it look like something that would open? Firewing chuckled.
That's true. But all you need is the right words.
He faced the center of the building. The loud voice said, Open it, dude! Translation, open up. At once, a square-shaped part of the roof faded away from the rest of the building, revealing a flight of stairs that descended into darkness. Fluttershy's jaw dropped. How did you do that? Firewing laughed.
Magic.
Fluttershy tilted her head to one side. You can use magic? She heard some incredibly talented Pegasi in Earth ponies that can use magic. It was a rare thing in Equestria for a pony that isn't a unicorn to have that ability. And yet, not only can Firewing seem to possess it, but he used that language she thought only she had.
Shut up, Fluttershy.
He replied, bringing the Pegasus back into focus.
This place was built by unicorns thousands of years ago. The entrance is protected by an enchantment that makes pony or horse think there's nothing there. Rather, there's something.
He noticed the gormless look Fluttershy was making inside.
It's hard to explain. A unicorn would explain it better on how the nuisance spells work.
Fluttershy immediately thought of Twilight, and how she would react to such a thing. She knew also Twilight would probably make less sense of it as well.
So,
We go in there? Firewing nodded. What does it mean?
it'll take us onto the plains to the highlands somewhere, inaccessible from anywhere else. It would take us about a day or two to walk through it all, but thankfully, there's a place I know where we could stop.
Firewing answered, pointing towards the mountains and east of them. Firewing brought out a match and a torch that placed in the pouch on his left side. He lit it up and proceeded to walk down the stairs.
You never Fluttershy.
He asked upon noticing the slightly shaking Pegasus. Yes and no, she answered. Firewing smiled comfortably.
It's okay to be nervous. There's nothing down there that will hurt you.
It's not that. Fluttershy said with a shake her head. Well, I know it's a silly thing to be nervous about, but I'm here and, I don't know what to expect.
Well, I'll give you a hint. I'm glad you enjoyed history so much, because this is going to be one large history section.
Fluttershy nodded and with a gulp placed one hoof forward, and then another with her hind legs responding, and another until she was next to Firewing. I was waiting for her at the top of the descent. With a nod, the two proceeded down the steps, the torch on Firewing's side lighting the way for them.
Well, I think it's the first thing we should start on,
said Firewing as he neared the edge of the descent and was continuing on the ground.
It's a language you have no idea about. The language is called Draconic, the first language of the dragons.
Fluttershy stopped as she felt her heart skip a beat. She looked at the Firewing with wide eyes. Does that make me part of the dragon? Firewing chuckled, tilting his head left and right as he spoke.
No, and yes.
What do you mean? Fluttershy inquired, tilting her head to the side in confusion and worry.
All a good time, he said. Now come on, this way.
He said as he trotted into the darkness, with a rather frustrated Pegasus behind him. The few minutes that passed seemed to go on for hours to Fluttershy. The walk was done in complete silence, with only the crackle of flames and the soft breathing of the two Pegasi to break it. Fluttershy began to feel claustrophobic once again. Thought for one moment the walls were beginning to close in on her. Soon realized it was just a trick of the light. The walls of cells were featureless and black, only the glow of the fire lighting them up into a fiery orange. Fireside liked to see where the sun was setting. The walls were also dim. Little drips of wire coming from the box above them, slipping down into the rocky walls. Finally, a small passage widened, revealing a tunnel that disappeared into the darkness. The design was very similar to the one she and Firewing had to go through in the fortress of the Ragged Mountains. While the fortress of both sides of the walls were decorated in carvings, this time it was only the left side, the same pictures of events as she saw in the fortress. The last time Fireside saw these, she never knew what was happening. This time, however, Firewing was going to tell her everything. It stopped before the first carving. It depicted three dragons on top of the mountains, their wings spread wide and their heads high and noble.
These carvings, and the story I'm about to tell you,
Firewing began.
began over 10,000 years ago, when the first races appeared. The greatest of these were the dragons. They thrived in the highest mountains and the deepest forests, and gathered together in harmony. For you see, at one time, the dragons were not greedy, destructive creatures that they are today. No, they were once a proud and noble race, greatly respected by all other races, yet rightly feared.
Fireside's ears were right up as he listened with great interest. Firewing pointed her to the next carving. There were three dragons, looking down at several peoples, ranging from ponies to griffins.
When the first mortal races developed the skills to civilize and grow into great kingdoms, the dragons made it their aim to guide and protect us from others and ourselves. And so began the reign of dragons, also known by those who can remember it as the Golden Age. When there was a dispute between two races, let's say the griffins and zebras, the dragons would intervene and negotiate a peaceful settlement between the two. To all races, a dragon's words were of great wisdom and power, and so a single word from a dragon would stop entire armies of thousands from crossing into each other. This continued for around 5 to 6,000 years, but although the dragons were powerful, they could not be everywhere. Many cities and castles fell, and all races had begun to feel some resentment towards each other.
He and Fireside walked past a few carvings, each detailing some of the greatest events of pre-equestrian history. From the rise and fall of the first fallen kingdom of Akkad to the civil war of the Griffins. Even some scenes were of Pegasus ponies fighting unicorn Pegasus ponies, most likely over the littlest disagreements. Oh look, there's the founding of the three tribes! But out of 10 of these sort of scenes, 8 of them had a dragon stopping the battle, and the two sides lowering their sword from their mouths or from their legs.
Things were great, though,
Firing continued.
until one great and terrible event happened.
He stopped before a carving that Fluttershy instantly recognized. It was the exact same one she saw on the pillars of the tomb of the fortress back in the Ragged Mountains.
The Great War began.
Oh, by the way, dear Myken, this is how you do a backstory and include the three tribes! Fluttershy looked at Firewing with sad eyes. How can people be this cruel? Firewing drew a sad sigh.
I wish I knew, Fluttershy. I wish I knew.
But how could such a war start? Fluttershy asked, dismayed at the thought of all those races hurting each other, probably the pettiest things.
No one actually knows how it started,
Firewing replied.
There's one theory, however. There's just a race called Dragonlords who manipulated all of them into starting it for their own entertainment.
A Draconquest. The name sounded familiar to Fluttershy, but she finally recognized it and ran her blood cold. Discord, she hissed, the name coming from her lips like venom. She hated that creature with all her heart. He corrupted her, her friends, and nearly tore him apart. Equestria along with them, and now the idea that he might have helped start a war for his own in his racist amusement made her hatred for him rise. Thankfully now he was locked away in some dark and horrible place to rot in stone. It could do no harm to anybody else. Wait until the rest of season 3, Toots! Finally looked at her with alarmed reins, not expecting to see such anger in the calm air.
You're familiar with that name,
Firesight nodded with a sigh.
Fortunately, yes. Me and my friends were the ones who put him back in stone.
Firewing's eyes widened.
Wait a minute. You and your friends are the bearers of the elements of harmony, the most powerful weapon on the Equestria.
Firesight nodded meekly, making Firewing grin.
This is one special pony indeed.
He thought, well,
He said, I never expected in my entire life to be a bearer of the elements. What elements do you represent?
I represent the element of kindness.
Firesight answered. Firewing whistled.
Impressive. I would love to know how an element bearer is chosen.
I'm not sure either, but I think we're getting a bad topic.
Well, they're not chosen there. Hello, epic backstory? Fine tricks, fine. I have some magical beings,
Right. Sorry.
Firewing said, grinning sheepishly.
Anyway, the Great War affected everyone else on the planet. Ponies, minotaurs, hippogriffs, griffins, zebras. You get the general idea.
But why didn't the dragons intervene?
Firesight asked, upon noticing the dragon's seemingly relaxed nature. Yet, were weeping great rainstorms of tears as they watched the events below unfold.
They would have if there were only two nations at war. Instead, it was all of them. The dragons realized that if they intervened, they would be seen as picking sides. So they decided to stay out of it and pray it would stop.
And did it?
Firewing stood his head.
The war lasted for many years, never once faltering. It was said that the bloodshed during the war was enough to cover the entire kingdom of Equestria, maybe enough to even flood it. That blood had stained every inch of land on this continent. Every field, mountain path, forest, places that are now cities was the site of a great and bloody battle.
Firesight began to feel queasy. All this talk of blood was now getting a bit much for her.
I don't want to sound mean or anything, but can we talk a little less about blood?
Oh, sorry. I do get carried away sometimes.
He grinned sheepishly while rubbing the back of his neck with a huff.
The war continued until one dragon, their leader, had decided that enough was enough. He ordered his people to launch an attack on all races and oppress them until they were no longer able to fight again.
Firewing pointed Firesight to another carving, this one depicting a large dragon in the foreground of the carving, sending other, smaller, scale dragons to war. It seems to Pegasus a bit hypocritical of dragons. Stop violence, but creating even more violence. But their intentions were good enough, she reasoned, and she could slightly respect for that part anyway.
Did it work?
I'm afraid not.
Firewing said solemnly.
It was a disaster. The elder dragon's son was killed, and the others were forced to retreat, leaving the elder dragon's son's body to be paraded about as a trophy.
Firesight placed a hoof to her mouth in shock.
That's horrible.
Firewing nodded in agreement.
It got worse, though. The dragons banished the elder dragon from their kingdom, for violating the sacred order the dragons had stood by for centuries. Before he left, the dragon promised revenge on his fellow dragons, and swore to destroy all life on the planet for the crime of existence, as he so called it.
Firesight couldn't believe what she was hearing. She felt a bit sick at the thought of such a creature harvesting such malice against everything.
So, what happened next?
Firewing motioned for her to follow him. They passed several carvings depicting more battles and even more peace gatherings that ended not so peacefully. Eventually, Firewing stopped in front of a carving that depicted something that made the yellow Pegasus shiver.
Is that the same dragon?
She asked. The carving depicted the elder dragon from before, except this time it was fire manifested in flesh. Its wings, scales, and horns, and even his eyes were depicted to burn brightly, while below him lay the charred remains of so many creatures. Firewing nodded.
The dragon learned forbidden yet ancient magic in his 100 years of exile, and exhalation for the rest of Terra. When he emerged, he returned not as the great dragon he once was, but Hemdar, the self-proclaimed illuminator of the world, and he was going to purify the earth with fire. Heimdall began a brutal path of destruction across the planet. He incinerated entire kingdoms and left no survivors in his wake. He was very good when it came to that.
First, I looked closer and recognized those burning, evil eyes as the same ones she saw in her nightmares. So Heimdall was he, who she, Twilight, and Princess Celestia met in her mind. She backed away from the carving in fright.
You recognize Heimdall, don't you?
Fireside nodded.
Sort of. I was sort of prophetic vision. That's what the princess called him anyway. Of him attacking and burning Equestria.
She pulled up across her face.
He made me watch my own friends die.
Firelight put a comforting hoof on her shoulder.
So, you had them as well, huh?
Fireside looked into his eyes. Her own was white as saucers.
You had them too?
Firelight nodded.
I'll talk about that later. But now, back to this.
He turned his head back towards the following carving. This one depicting a large group of dragons engaging the larger, more powerful Heimdall. And below them were dragons falling to the ground dead.
By now, a dragon named Vidar was the elder.
Which, in case you haven't gotten it, Vidar, well, that's the reason for the God of Vengeance. Yeah, Vidar's the God of Vengeance. Cool, huh?
When he heard of the war of genocide by Heimdall, he was devastated. He spent a few days sulking until he finally ordered his finest dragons to fight and defeat him. As you can see, it did not end well for them. Once he defeated the elite dragon warriors, he turned his attention to the dragon race itself. Using a magic spell, some theorize he learned from the Draconicus race. He somehow managed to manipulate every dragon's heart, making his or her greed for everything too strong to stay. The resulting spell nearly destroyed the dragons, and the kingdom they lived in shattered. After that day, the dragons only came together during the Great Dragon Migration, and that is a once-in-a-generation event.
Well, other than grabbing the Dragonlord, but we'll get to that later. Yes, I find it interesting. I am doing a story called Last of the Dragonlords, and at one point in the show, there was a gem for the Dragonlord. I get it!
So, how was Heimdall stopped?
Flesheye asked. She quickly realized he was stopped somehow, or else she, or anyone for that matter, wouldn't be alive. Finally motioned to look at the next one. When she did, she gasped. It depicted the dragon Vidar, with a large group of Earth, Pegasi, and Unicorn ponies. The ponies were all wearing heavy armor. At the front was a Pegasus, with a long cloak draped across his armor.
By now, Heimdall had wiped out at least 4 races across the world. After he learned to spell manipulation from them, he turned and slaughtered the Draconicus race, leaving only one survivor, and the hypocrites were getting dangerously close.
I thought that was the Storm King.
You really think the Storm King could have done that?
Well, that explains a lot.
Vidar, in his desperation,
Acted fast, so he summoned a large group of the finest warriors of Pegasi, the most powerful unicorn races, and the strongest earth ponies together.
But why ponies? Surely a griffin is more powerful than a Pegasus.
Correct, Flesheye. But Vidar saw ponies as the born survivors. There were more of them, and no matter how many Heimdall killed, they would go on for thousands of years. To him, they were the perfect candidates.
For what?
Firewing walked over to the next one. By now they were reaching the end of the tunnel and would soon have to travel through a small passageway in the rocks again.
For this,
He said, indicating with a hoof to what was happening in the carving. Fluttershy walked up alongside him and looked at him quizzically. Vidar was gone, and while the ponies that were standing had the looks of bewilderment.
using ancient, forgotten, and forbidden magic, Vidar transferred parts of his soul into each and every one of the ponies present there. All 2,000 of them. Vidar was killed in the process, but what he gave the ponies was phenomenal, and it would be impossible. Each pony had gained a greater sense of hearing and sight. They speak Draconic, impossible for any pony else to try. Only right. They can use the Dragon Stare, a powerful ability to order and calm any living creature by using the eyes.
Fluttershy's heart froze once again. The dragon stare sounded awfully familiar to her own stare. Was it the same thing?
But I guess something like that. I've had it for ages.
Firewing glanced at her and turned back to the carving as though she never talked.
The ponies then set about trying to find and hunt down Heimdall. They eventually found him over at present-day Horsecar and engaged him. The battle was long and hard, with magic raining from the skies and the ground, the Pegasi swarming around him, and the deaths of so many Pegasi falling from the sky. But after 2 hours of fighting, the Earth ponies, Pegasi, unicorns, managed to bring down Heimdall and send him crossing to the ground, dead.
We like to call some of these guys Fox Machina. Boo! As Firewing spoke, Fluttershy pictured in her mind the battle taking place.
After celebrating their victory and mourning their dead, they buried the remains of Heimdall in a large tomb and built a giant lake around it, so it would never be found. The battle against Heimdall was the first recording of the Dragonlords, the greatest group of warriors who had ever lived.
Firewing finished with his head held high. Fluttershy didn't know why, but she felt something in the air the moment the word Dragonlords was said. She felt her coat stand on end as a shiver crawled through her body.
Well, that was fascinating and all.
She said, putting on a polite smile.
But
Firewing turned to face her with a raised eyebrow.
But
Fluttershy's ears went down and her head lowered. She knew she sounded silly after saying this, but could not let it pass.
what does this all have to do with me?
Firewing gave her a deadpan look and pointed to the small passage leading out of the tunnel.
see this path. Would you awfully mind walking through it for me, please?
Fluttershy moved to stand in front of the dark passage, looked through and gave Firewing a look of bewilderment.
Is that it? I mean, why me first?
Firewing looked at the pegs, then back to Fluttershy, then back to the passage again, this time a bit longer as he was trying to remember something.
Oh, yes,
he exclaimed, making Fluttershy jump.
I forgot all about that.
He walked past Fluttershy to the right side, where he revealed a chain lever dangling from the wall. Using his teeth, he pulled it down, and the passage lit up as flames rose up from the ground and the walls, creating an inferno. Fluttershy could feel the heat on her couch, but the fire didn't scare her. Not anymore.
Well, are you going to walk through it or not?
Firewing said to her with a raised eyebrow. Fluttershy replied with a smirk, and did cheerfully trot through the burning path. The flames danced around her as she trotted. The warm touch was relaxing, just like the first time she stepped into the fire in her cottage miles away from here. She made it to the other side and shook off the ash and soot that lifted on her coat from her travels. She turned around and began searching for a lever or chain that would set the fire off, so Firewing could come through. She began to panic when she couldn't find anything.
Firewing!
She called back to the tunnel, hoping her voice would be loud enough to be heard over the heavy crackle of flames.
I'm through, but I don't know if I can shut it off from this side. What should I do?
Just as she was finished speaking, the Pegasus himself appeared through the flames and joined her. Phew! Previously brushed off a hut of some of the soot that had fallen upon him.
Well, that was lovely. I'm sorry for the sigh. Did you say something earlier? I think I'm going to go to the depths of my old age.
First, I didn't say anything. He says he walked up to the Pegasus with wide, disbelieving eyes, prodding him so hard on the side he nearly fell over.
You're okay? I don't understand. How can you be okay?
Firewing shrugged.
One of the benefits of being a Dragonlord, I suppose. You walked through it okay, though.
Fluttershy opened her mouth to speak, but shut again upon realizing what Firewing just said. Her eyes widened. What are the benefits of being a Dragonlord? Wouldn't that make her?
Does that make me?
Were her thoughts, already dreading the answer.
Firewing nodded. Yes, Fluttershy. We possess the abilities of a Dragonlord.
Okay, everybody with me now. You're a wizard, Harry! Thank you. Now that the joke is done, we can move on to part 2 tomorrow.